Hey everyone, if you've tried intermittent fasting and your A1C levels continue to go up or stay the same, this video is for you. So my A1C has been trending upward for years. I am well on my way to type 2 diabetes if I don't get the A1C down. And for those of you that don't know, A1C is an average of your blood sugar levels over the last 3 months. When this starts trending above 5.0, you have blood sugar issues. Now, I wanted my A1C to go down, right? And the doctor's like, hey, you got to cut out carbs. You have to do all of these things. And I did all of those things. And one of the things that I did was intermittent fasting. Now, there's a ton of studies out there that shows intermittent fasting is perfect to lower your A1C and to help manage pre-diabetes and even diabetes, especially type 2. So my problem was my A1C never really went down. It would stay the same or go down a little bit, but then go back up. And then with intermittent fasting, my A1C started trending up. It continued to trend up, and I wasn't sure what was really causing it. However, I kept intermittent fasting, I kept fasting, I kept doing all of the things that I was reading about, but my A1C wasn't really responding by going down at all. So as you guys know, earlier in the year, I got a continuous glucose monitor, and I've been wearing it ever since I got it. That's about 3 months ago now. So I've been wearing it for 3 months. And I've been charting my blood sugars, taking a look and trying to figure out how to get the blood sugar down and start controlling some of the peaks and the valleys that were happening so that I could lower my A1C. But something that was going on. So I was able to control my daily blood sugar pretty easily just by adjusting my diet. And I talk about it here on the YouTube channel, what I did to adjust it. But at night, when I would sleep, my blood sugars were continuing to be high. And by high, I mean they were in the 140s, anywhere from the 140s almost to the 200s. They should not be that high at night. And this was always when I laid down, it would spike up. And I looked everything up that I could and read all of the information that I could read, but I just wasn't finding a way to get my sleeping blood sugar lowered. And that was the only piece that was missing from fully controlling my blood sugar levels. And like I said, I've been intermittent fasting, low carb, keto, carnivore, you name it. I've tried it, but it just wasn't helping my nighttime sugar levels. They were continuing to remain high, which means my A1C was continuing to remain high. So I ended up tweaking intermittent fasting a little bit by accident and started realizing that if I eat my last meal before 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., if I eat that last meal before 5 p.m., I have normal blood sugars while I sleep and when I wake up. Blew my mind. So I have been intermittent fasting wrong all of these years. What I was doing was intermittent fasting so that I wouldn't eat my first meal until 1 or 2 o'clock during the day, and then finish up my last meal about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. There's a lot of reasoning behind that, right? That was our typical dinner hour, but that is just not working for me. In fact, it was making everything worse. Now, even if I was eating a complete carnivore or complete keto meal at night with 0 carbs, I was still spiking at night with blood sugar. I just was not able to control it. Even if I did my entire day at 0 carbs, complete carnivore or complete keto, no carbs, I was still spiking at night when I was asleep. It was completely perplexing to me. I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, I was doomed. Maybe this is what it was like when you crossed over into diabetes. I didn't know. But by chance, just by chance, I altered my diet one day. And I ended up eating my last meal about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We had a late lunch. And what happened is I just wasn't hungry for dinner. So I decided to skip it. Blood sugar was perfect that night. And I said, what the heck? So the next day I did the same thing. I had a late lunch, skipped dinner, same thing. So since I've been tweaking it to find out what time can I eat my last meal and how will my blood sugar respond? By keeping my meals no later than 5 p.m., I'm doing 100% better and I'm able to control my blood sugar 24 hours a day without any issues. And that's even eating carbs at that 5 p.m. meal. So I can eat carbs to a certain extent. I can't eat a lot of carbs. I can't eat like a large pizza and maintain blood sugar levels, but I can have some carbs, like a small serving of lasagna at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and do okay all night if I don't eat later than that 5 p.m. Now, I had a couple of habits that was happening. So because I was intermittent fasting all through the morning and not eating until 1 or 2 o'clock, I would have my last meal about 7 o'clock at night and then have a small dessert, like maybe a square or piece of chocolate. And that was just killing my blood sugar levels. And by tweaking it and figuring it out and eating my last meal before 5 o'clock, I'm able to control blood sugars 24 hours a day. And I can't wait to get my next A1C for the first time. I'm actually looking forward to taking the A1C instead of dreading it because I'm wearing the continuous blood glucose monitor. I have now been able to maintain really good blood sugar levels for 4 days straight without any issues. And that's eating some carbs during the day. So what was I doing wrong? I was intermittent fasting at the wrong time of the day. I need to eat earlier in the day and stop eating later in the day. So what I needed to do was shift the times that I'm actually intermittent fasting so that I'm not waiting until 1 or 2 o'clock to eat, but I'm eating much earlier and then cutting off all of my food by 5 o'clock. Now, I did figure out that if I still have a very small meal past the 5 o'clock range, if I eat a small meal, like one serving of whatever it is, and I don't mean spaghetti or anything crazy like that, but I mean like one small salad or one small piece of chicken, just a very small serving, I can still control my blood sugars at night while I sleep. However, if it's after 5 o'clock and I eat a typical full-blown meal, I can't control blood sugars at all when I sleep. So by cutting off my meals at 5 o'clock, I'm ensuring that I can control my blood sugars at night. But sometimes that's not possible. This is the real world. And sometimes we eat later for whatever, a million reasons, or maybe you're at a party or a celebration or whatever it is, and you still need to eat like a small meal later. Cut that back and make it super, super small, and you'll still do okay. So those are the small tweaks that I made. I've actually been intermittent fasting wrong for years. And by wrong, I mean for my body. I'm autoimmune. What was happening is I was fasting half of the day and spiking my cortisol levels, spiking my blood sugar levels, and continuing to be sick. By shifting my intermittent fasting window to a different time of the day. So let's say I cut off all food by 5 o'clock. I can then eat earlier the next day, but I still have the 18-hour to 20-hour fasting. So it's still intermittent fasting, but I'm shifting my window of when I'm not eating to earlier in the day so that if 5 o'clock is my last meal, I still won't eat until the next day when it's after the 18 hours of fasting, but it's earlier in the day so that I can eat more of a breakfast, larger lunch, small dinner before 5, and then cut off all food past 5 o'clock. I can control my blood sugar 24 hours a day. And I've actually been doing a really, really good job of it. What was crazy to me is that I've never heard anyone talk about this, shifting the intermittent fasting window and doing better if you're autoimmune. I've never heard of this. I've heard of maybe you can't intermittent fast if you're autoimmune or that I was spiking cortisol, but the intermittent fasting studies were so good that I knew it was good for autoimmune. I just didn't understand I had to adjust the intermittent fasting window. So if this is you, if you've tried intermittent fasting and it hasn't really dropped your A1C, or you haven't started feeling better, shift your intermittent fasting window so that you're eating earlier in the day and you're cutting off your food earlier in the evening to afternoon, and see if that helps. I was blown away by the actual results of what's been happening with the blood glucose monitor. And just by making a small shift. Now, it's not a shift that I wanted to make. It's not a shift that works with my family lifestyle. Like, our lifestyle has been centered around eating later in the evening for many reasons. And then trying to shift that has been kind of hard for me. So instead of not eating, which I'm able to do some days, if we eat a late lunch, I'm able to not eat and it doesn't bother me. However, if we haven't had a late lunch, or we haven't had a good meal during the day, and I still want to eat a late night dinner — by late night, I mean 7 to 8 o'clock, I then shifted the serving size to extremely small. And I say extremely small, but I mean it's probably a true one serving of whatever item it is. I'm able to still control blood sugar levels. Now, what also blew my mind with making this small shift is that my morning numbers when I wake up were still high, even though I was controlling my blood sugar during the day, even though I was keto or carnivore, I was intermittent fasting, I was doing all of the things. My fasting blood sugar was still high. It was still in the 120 range. And I wasn't able to drop it past that. However, making the shift of changing my intermittent fasting window to a different time of the day, my blood sugar when I wake up has been 101. 101, 98, which is freaking perfect. Perfect fasting blood sugar levels. How I never knew to do this before blows my mind. But if you're out there and you're like me, try this shift, try this change, and see if it works for you, because now I'm super happy and motivated to keep going, because for once, it's working. Intermittent fasting is actually working. And it was just one little change or shift that I made that completely changed everything for me. So I'm going to report back as soon as I take the A1C so that we can see the difference between the numbers, so that you know I'm not crazy. But two, if this is you, if you're autoimmune, if you're not autoimmune, but you've tried intermittent fasting and it hasn't really dropped your A1C or worked, shift shift your fasting window, is what I'm trying to say, to a different time of the day, and see if it helps. I hope this finds you. If you're out there, this has made all the difference in my health. This has made all the difference in trying to lower my A1C levels. I hope this video finds you, and I hope this change helps you. See you guys in the next video.